Hey guys, and welcome to the woods. When I grew up in Cleveland, they had cottonwood trees all around my house, and it would, they're those big puffy seeds, and they're like snowflakes. I see them coming down ahead of me in the sun. You probably can't see them because there's not a sun streak behind me. But anyhow, so they keep popping out at me. But anyhow, that was what I saw a lot when I was a kid, and it's just like, this is a nice little spot. It's all this little cottonwood pilings around the ground. I can show you one so at least you can go, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, there's the actual seed, the pod, and then that's what comes off of it. And it just floats all over the place. But we used to pile it up in long rows and then light it on fire, and it sort of burns, and we could, anyway, that's what kids do. All right, so that was to kind of get everybody up to speed. Everybody's ready? What do I want to talk about today? Well, one thing, to recap a little bit from yesterday, we were talking about, and I was kind of playing with, how do I describe this, this sort of sense of, because I was struggling with it myself. I know about the 24,000 years of the planet going around the galaxy, and I know that if you put in your head the sense of it being a clock, at 12 o'clock we're the most enlightened, the most connected, the most tuned in, tapped in, turned on. If this is the vibration of enlightenment, and on this side is who we really are, and the God source, the all-knowing, all unconditional love version of ourselves from where we came from, and here's us down here living as humans. We get up to that point where it's like, oh, everything makes sense, and we understand everything, and we know who we really are, and so you're able to express and be the true, deep, all-knowing love version like Jesus was. That's going to be very easy at 12 o'clock. He pulled it off at 6 o'clock. That's the amazing part. So he came into a really dark time when it was very difficult to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and he came in and was like, here's who you really are, is who he was saying. And love is all there is, and love is the most important thing, and all that kind of stuff, and let that be, and let that be. That was pretty much his sense of things. That's basically my message today. Let that be, we're fine. But, and prior to his time, they definitely knew about the 24,000 year cycle around the planet, and they knew about the sun going, Earth going around the sun, and the sun moving around the galaxy. And it seemed like, after that we sort of lost it. We knew less of that. So there's many signs there where you can see that the de-evolution from 12 o'clock down to 6, the de-evolution of man. And this is a point I wanted to bring up from yesterday. We were talking about the radio frequency, and you swing a radio around and the stations change based on the placement of the radio, which is true. And it's but it's not as simple as a radio station. It's whole different frequencies. We're moving into the frequency and the location in the galaxy where all this technology and us popping in springtime, and everything's popping, and the planet is going to be rejuvenating itself. We're rejuvenating ourselves. We're going to have a different sense of things, and that meshing of two vibrations can be tricky. So we'll talk more about that. But something just landed on my head. All right, so this 24,000 years going around, I wanted to give it another vantage point. So you could also say down at 6 o'clock, from like 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock, it's poor reception. At 6 o'clock is the worst reception, but you just can't get a good signal. You can't get tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You're not getting to that point where you're rising above and above, I'm not going to go into all that, but I used to talk about that a lot. 68 degrees, if you get to a certain vibration, all of a sudden everything makes sense. And you have that clarity. I call it tuned in, tapped in, turned on. When you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on, everything makes sense. You feel the peace and perfection of everything around you. And we could go into that deeper, but I wanted to get back to that point of this 12,000 years of the planet going around the galaxy. At 6 o'clock, it was really difficult. And we weren't enlightened. And we weren't connected to the God source, and we weren't following our innermost desire and feeling the connection of our soul and realizing who we are. It was a difficult time. So that's still been difficult after that. So it's 7 o'clock, I think we're now about 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is a beautiful time when things are changing and a lot of beautiful things happening. And I think that's important to lock down on because of this. I don't know about you guys, but I'm trying to reprogram myself. I look around me and I see the paradigm of who we all thought we were 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 100 years ago, 10 years ago. It's evolving. We're realizing who we are. We're rediscovering who we really are. So it's a good time to be looking ahead, not behind. We've got to drop the things of behind. The way we run our governments, the way we manage ourselves, the way we distribute goods, the way we work and fulfill ourselves, and the things we do as hobbies. And am I able to be free to pursue my soul's divinely inspired version of love that I am? And are other people allowed to do that? And how do we create a society that allows people to pop and be who they want to be? And instead of, a few thousand years ago, they were slaves. We owned people. You were born into that. That's God decided that. That God decided you're a slave. God decided that you're going to be a worker, a poor person. God decided. Nothing to do with it, So anyway, you guys know the history. But anyway, so we're moving through that. It's the way it is. It's perfect, and it's we do the best you can when you got no radio frequency, no reception. You're like running amok. You don't really know who you are, and so we have some paradigms that need to be dropped. And when you're, as I can attest, when you're letting go of that, I'm going to be busy, and I'm going to keep fighting for a better place, a better life, maybe just better for me, maybe better for me and my family, maybe better for me and my neighborhood, maybe better, but I'm going to let go of that now because I know we're coming. It's going to happen anyway. And from that vantage point of it's all good, I can much easier let go of the things I did in the past and say, you know what, those things, that's at a low vibration. It was very tricky. I'm very limited now in my understanding of who I really am in the collective consciousness and how all this works. I'm playing with meditation, and I'm trying to be more loving to myself, and I'm changing my dialogue to myself. I'm trying to say nice things about and to myself, and watching them spew out to the people around me. So I say, wow, I'm accomplishing a lot more around me. I'm clearing my grid. I'm clearing my sense of fear. I'm clearing my past interpretation of how I thought the planet worked, and I'm working on being more accepting and loving and letting things go and letting things be. And I know that that has an effect on my grid and my vibration, and it has an effect on everybody's vibration because we're all commingling and sharing the same vibration. So really, what you do with yourself is really the most important thing. You'll see beautiful things come out of you, but you can't be going for beautiful things. You can't be I'm gonna become a great person by doing great person things. You would have no idea what great person things are if you haven't become a great person. And you can't become a great person because someone crowns you a great person. You've got to feel it. You've got to feel that you're the most loving version that you could imagine. And that seems so strange and so arbitrary, but it's not easy. You just gotta take some time and ask for it. If you have an inclination and you're interested, then pursue it. If you're not interested, as long as it's not fear and things like that, then don't pursue it. Pursue whatever it is that you're doing, whatever it does, whatever you do out there to help you feel tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and feel that love. We never talked about emotions in the past. Now we know. Emotions are everything. We used to say, your thoughts create your reality. They don't create your reality. Thoughts create your emotions. Your emotions create the reality. The emotions, you feel it, right? You ever feel emotions when you get, man, these cottonwood things are really, can you see them? I don't know if you can see them on the camera, but right now it's really coming down. All right. You feel, look at that big one. All right. You feel the emotions, and what you're feeling is what's being created around you. So if you want to really be a positive influence to the world around you, work on your feeling sense of perfection and ease and lack of fear for the future, lack of concern and regret for the past. and be in the moment. But you can't come into the moment if you came from the past fear hating yourself and you're going to move into the moment, it's going to be a grueling place. You're not going to like it. And if you're racked with fear for the future and you try to come into the moment, you're like, well, let me be observing of my body. And now I realize I think I have a virus inside of me that's trying to kill me. And I'm not ready to die. I don't even know who I am, so I don't want to take the who I am to the other side where they apparently know who you are, and then they're going to judge you and all that type of stuff. So that's that paradigm I'm trying to sort of erase out of my brain. But I've been erasing that out of my brain for many, 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 many years. So I still find work to be done. How much can you let go? There's always something you're sort of holding on to. And I think that's the real work. As I clear my connection to the past and my fear for what I've done wrong and how that's going to be interpreted by myself when I die, God forbid you to be someone else who's interpreting. It's just, we're all one. It's, people say that, and that's what happens when you get tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and you rise above that arbitrary point where all of a sudden everything starts to make sense and you see the perfection of everything around you. That's not hard to get to. And you'll have glimpses of it. Once you get some glimpses of it, you're like, oh, I'm locked down. I feel it. I know what that feels like. Oh, I'm not feeling it now. I know what that feels like. And you figure out how to get there. But the cool thing is that I get excited about is technology is going to show us how to do that. I just spent 20 minutes with this little machine on my head. It's just a little headband goes across your head. The Muse 2, it's a new one. But anyway, and it reads your brain waves, and it picks up behind your ears here. And anyway, so it's crazy because you just have to be conscious of your breath. Really deeply conscious of your breath, and the birds will start chirping. As soon as your mind sort of starts to drift and you become out of the moment, it starts to rain, the sound of rain. And I've talked about this before, but anyway, I think it's a good tool. But my point was really to say that there's so much more coming. And they already know that, I gave this example before, but you can put those little machines, not the Muse, but another one, a little more complicated, on a monkey's head and read the signaling of the brain, and then put it out on a Wi-Fi to an artificial monkey hand that the Wi-Fi makes it operate like fingers and move forward and back and anywhere it wants to go. So, complicated little thing, but not really. Anyway, so with his brain, he has to operate this hand. He doesn't know that he doesn't know it's not his hand. He's through a little box and he's feeding himself. And I went through this scenario before, so sorry. But he's feeding himself. The point I was going to get to is that it didn't take long for him to train his brain. Once he sort of got the biofeedback, he's like, oh, I see how to think to make this go to my head. But it's not so simple like, oh, you cross these two wires. This is a magical box in here, which we know is working out of the field around it. It's not even, the memory's not in your head. Nothing's in your head. I don't know how it works, but I don't want to even try to figure out how it works unless I'm tuned in, tapped in, turned on, because then stuff just comes to you. And anyway, it's cool stuff. And a lot of times you're just led to the right place. So whatever, I guess my concluding point with that is, what interests you? That's really what's at the heart here. Your soul has a personality. You came into this life. You've got this short time on planet Earth. You're going to go back. What do you want to do? Let's play with this quick concluding analogy. Let's shrink down life to a day. You were asleep last night, so you don't know where you came from. You worked this morning. It's lunchtime right now. And this afternoon, you're going to do something, and tonight you're going to go back to sleep, back to where you came. So that's not much different than a lifetime. When you're asleep, you have no idea where you are. And they say your soul leaves your body and the whole thing. But anyhow, so it's like a clearing. You get to come back the next day, and you still have a little bit of your prior day still with you. But you have a chance to sort of like pull up a higher vibration, be more loving, whatever. So it's lunchtime right now. You're on planet Earth. If you're 50 years old, they say that you'll live to 100 now based on our guesstimate of average lifespan. So you're halfway through. So I'm about halfway through. Now, what am I going to do for the second half of my day? It's a good time to sit. It's lunchtime. Sit. The virus is out there. Everybody's being asked on the planet to sit. Sit. It's lunchtime. And think about the fact that, what did I do this morning? Now, I know nighttime is spooky. Who knows? But it seemed okay. And I know when I go to sleep tonight, I'll be okay and I'll wake up again. But you don't know you're going to wake up again. So it could be just as scary if you wanted to, but I don't want to play with waking up in the morning, going to bed at night being the scary time, because I don't think there's anything to be scared of. But let's play back to this. It's lunchtime. So maybe you don't like what you did this morning, but it's time to you can reinvent yourself. Whatever you thought you weren't good at before, you can be good at it now. Whatever you thought you did, your limitations are gone. Now, the thing that I wanted to get to is this last point, and we're done. What is it you want to do for the second half of your day? You can do whatever you want. You're not going to make any big change on this planet this afternoon. You could go back to work and go to work, do what you're doing, but bring in a new sense of who you really are. And you know, if you could think about a little bit of that each day, start early in the morning. I just was born climbing out of my bed. And what am I going to be today? What am I going to do today? How am I going to shine my love? What does my soul want to pursue? Not do and run from, fix, you know. Anyway, I think that's it. I think that's, you know, I used to always tie in everything, something with a love bomb. I feel like I've dropped that a little bit. I feel like saying the word, but I don't know where I'm putting it. But loving on yourself, it's really the key. It's the place to start. And then you go be loving for the second half of your day, or the second half of your life. Or maybe you're young and you're watching this. Anyway, all right, that's it. See you guys. Talk to you tomorrow.